Ranking systems in video games have been around for years. It makes sense. When a video game has any sort of competitive aspect to it where one player can be better or worse than another, people want to find ways to quantify and objectively define what makes one player better or worse than another. Some ranking systems are really transparent and easy to figure out, and some are just a little bit more complex. Usually within each game, competitive players will try their hardest to figure out the most efficient way to rank up or win, be it by choosing the strongest character, playing the right levels or maps, or by simply getting better. After a ranking system has been developed, usually a metagame will form. This is what happens when a strategy or skill within the game is found to gain players' wins or ranks more often than other strategies or skills. Once a strategy like this is found, usually players wishing to rank up will conform to this metagame in order to avoid getting beaten by their peers that are using superior strategies. Often this might mean that there is just a different strategy or character that a player needs to use, requiring no change in skill. In rhythm games, however, the rankings are usually entirely based on solo play. What happens in this case is that players with skills that the ranking system favors will be ranked higher than a player with skills in a less favorable area, even if their total skill level is the same. At the point where a favorable skill is identified, usually players whose goal is to rank up will begin working on getting better at that specialized skill set, and might neglect other skills that the ranking system doesn't reward. This creates highly specialized players who push the boundaries of whatever skill might be in the meta. And now I should talk a little more specifically about Osu. Osu is one of those rhythm games that measures its entire ranking system on solo play, and that ranking system has seen many changes throughout the history of the game. In Osu, performance points, hilariously abbreviated as PP, are at the core of this system, and the more of these you have, the higher ranked you become. At one point in time, fast aiming and short maps were king, and granted what now seems like an insane amount of PP. At another, space streams and high accuracy plays granted quite a bit as well. Right now, the system rewards two things very highly: long maps and maps with lots of fast tapping. Now that some time has passed since the infamous rework that added speed into the meta, we can see new players rise to the top of the rankings that are especially skilled at tapping fast, and the current top 10 players illustrates this pretty well. There is currently only one player in the top 10 that I would say might not have the speed rivaling the best in the world, because his top plays are largely based on the older, shorter jump farm maps with fast aiming. Looking at the top 20 only adds one, maybe two names to this list. It has been shown that in this meta, it is not impossible, but extremely difficult to reach the upper echelons of the Osu rankings without having an extreme amount of tapping speed. Imagine for a second that you are someone that wants to rank up in Osu. A lot of you watching probably already fall into this category anyways. You look at the best players who are topping the rankings and you want to be like them. You look at the skills that they have, and you see insane speed as the common theme between them. You say to yourself, I want to get faster like Scytho so I can get better at Osu and rank up. Then you run into this problem. Tapping fast is hard. Playing maps outside of your comfort zone or faster than what you're used to literally tires out your hand, and you run out of stamina quicker than you want. This is fine because your fingers and arm muscles need time to adapt to the faster BPM that you want to tap. This player will probably get faster, and if they are dedicated, they will probably rank up. The problems with this begin to start at the seriously high levels of the game. When you get to the highest achievable levels of any skill, you begin to push the limits of your mind and body's capacity. For the large majority of skills in Osu, this is your mind's capacity to read the notes on the screen and tap them at the correct time. Tapping speed and stamina are skills that I firmly believe are a combination of technique and pure physical ability. To those of you that haven't seen my tapping technique video, I mentioned genetics very briefly. I said this: in the same light, I think the fastest players in Osu have a physical advantage over the rest of us. That's not to say they have better genetics, even though that might be true to some degree. That's a whole other topic. This is that topic. Before I explain the genetic impact, I want to mention that I have a degree in exercise science, and I'm not just some rando on the internet talking about stuff he knows nothing about. I have a very large and extensive background when it comes to exploring human limits and physiology, in reality and in lab settings. The reason I explain my credentials like this is because it ties back in with my belief that tapping is partially determined by physical ability, something I know a lot about. Genetics affect everyone who plays sports or esports. Some people are naturally stronger or faster than others. Below the professional levels, this won't cause any problems. People that seriously want to improve will improve, regardless of current ability or improvement speed. Most people who seriously push themselves and train themselves in a certain skill with the goal of becoming better will end up becoming very good at that skill. Some people lose the genetic lottery in an extreme way and might not be able to manage this, but in the large majority of cases, genetics don't prevent someone from reaching a high level of ability. But when we begin to talk about the highest level, the best of the best, the top 0.01%, It is usually then where there is a difference between players that isn't entirely accounted for by how hard they worked. I'm not qualified to talk about the large majority of skills in Osu, seeing as they are mostly mental. A bit of research shows that there is a link to genetics and reaction time, but that was the only concrete link I found. How much that matters to reach a high level is the subject of plenty of debate between a huge number of players. However, the genetic impact on physical skills, like our beloved Osu tapping speed, has been widely studied. It has been found that different people literally have different muscle fibers that contribute to performance, with some people being more suited for short-term sprints and some people being more suited to long-term endurance efforts. Genetics also play a role in injury rate, and people that get injured less often have an easier time developing their muscles. There are tons of other smaller genetic differences that each person has that can contribute positively or negatively to their physical performance. Another aspect of the speed meta that raises a problem is the newfound ability to bypass the physical requirements set through a unique technique. Recently, a certain player has made waves in the Osu community for his extremely high star rating passes and FCs.
Laissez-faire
is a 4-digit Osu player who has popularized rake tapping, which is a method of raking the keys in order to brute force as many inputs as possible. This has instantly caused controversy for good reason. It's been shown that rake tapping has allowed players to reach speeds of upwards of 900 BPM. What rake tapping has allowed Laissez-faire to do is really interesting. Essentially, rake tapping has allowed him to tap faster maps than what his brain can actually process. He has found a way to tap faster than anyone else, and since it's been replicated fairly easily, I don't think there's much of an argument to say he is more skilled of a player than Erison or Eterna. However, the fact of the matter is that he is tapping faster than them, which has allowed him to show a flaw in the idea that faster is better. By the way, I should mention that Laissez-faire doesn't deserve any hate or slander going his way. In fact, I think it's great that someone is showing that there are still problems with the meta and the PP system, because if nobody did, then there would never be any changes in the system. The last thing I want to talk about is a potential solution. I think changing the PP system to be less in favor of pure tapping speed is something that would help with this issue, but wouldn't necessarily solve it. Tapping a very high BPM with accuracy is not just difficult because of the physical skill required. Nerfing speed in this way would nullify speed players' incredibly high degree of rhythm sense as well, which I think is required to set speed scores in addition to the physical skill. My solution to this problem is very simple. I think Osu should allow for there to be more than 2 keys. Technically you can already do this because there are 4 inputs. The problem is that only 2 inputs are recognized at a time. If you try to press your right mouse button down while already pushing X, the input won't register. This is important because when streaming, you rely on being able to tap so quickly after your last input that the last input hasn't finished yet. This means that the only way to currently play like this would be a perfect fully alternating playstyle between 4 keys. It's very hard to learn, and I don't know of a single player that has done this. Oh my god, that's as far as I can get. Oh my god. I tried so hard. I do know one player that uses 3 keys, which must be really finicky and difficult to gain consistency with due to the overlapping input. I personally think that Osu should go the A Dance of Fire and Ice route and allow for unlimited inputs. Obtaining a high accuracy would be just as challenging as it is now, but because you wouldn't have to physically move each finger faster than it's capable, it wouldn't be locked behind a physical disadvantage. Obviously with a change like this, there would have to be other changes to the ranking system to account for the fact that people could now literally mash their way into FCs or passes on very hard maps. People have found ways to do this with only 2 keys anyway, so I honestly don't think too much would change. Securing a high accuracy FC on a speed map would still be incredibly impressive, because you still need to have good enough finger control and coordination to tap such a high BPM with accuracy, regardless of the number of inputs you get. It would also be really cool if it was an option in the game, or maybe a new laser mod. I would personally love to experiment with it and see if it's something that can be implemented. It might be fun to try and learn, considering it would be so different to the Osu tapping that we already know. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. This video took a really long time to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like or a subscribe or anything. I really appreciate you for sticking it out all the way to the outro here. I just made a Discord server. If some of you guys want to join that, I'll be posting different events and stuff that's going to be happening on my stream over at Twitch. I might make a couple videos, a couple more fun type of videos based on that. That's all I can think of for now, so if you have any other feedback at all, feel free to drop it in the comments, and again, thank you guys so much. I just hit 300 subscribers. I didn't even have time to thank everyone for 200 now, I think. I don't know. But thank you again so much. Alright, thanks and bye.